here we go, guys. 2 Corinthians chapter 11. Okay? Paul and the false apostles. Paul says this, I wish you would bear with me in a little foolishness. Do bear with me, for I feel a divine jealousy for you, since I betrothed you to one husband to present you as a pure virgin to Christ. Symbolism here, right? But I am afraid that as the serpent deceived Eve by his cunning, your thoughts will be led astray from a sincere and pure devotion to Christ. So see, they have a pure and sincere devotion to Christ, but he is afraid that some false information is going to come on in here and deceive people. Just like we're seeing in this chat, guys. People want to come in and throw false claims around. And just like the serpent to Eve, they can be clever. But let's not forget the last chapter, right, guys? Our weapons of warfare are not of flesh, but divine power. We remain true to the truth of who Jesus Christ is. And here's what it says. For if someone comes and proclaims another Jesus than the one we proclaimed, or if you receive a different spirit from the one you received, or if you accept a different gospel from the one you accepted, you put up with it readily enough. Indeed, I consider that I am not in the least inferior to these super apostles. Sounds like there were some people coming by being super apostles trying to tell you this different message of a different Jesus who had a different spirit. So I think that's very important. And Paul says this, look, even though I am unskilled in speaking, I am not so in knowledge. Indeed, in every way we have made this plain to you in all things. All right, so notice that. Paul admits, hey, I'm not the best speaker, but I know what I'm talking about. I met the risen Jesus. He revealed his son in me, okay? All right, so now we've got, there's what it says in the Message version here. I wonder, did I make a bad mistake in proclaiming God's message to you without asking for something in return? Serving you free of charge so that you wouldn't be inconvenienced by me. It turns out the other churches paid my way so that you could have a free ride. So remember, he's been talking about the giving and all that stuff here, and he's mentioning it. There's giving. But let me go back, right? He says, if someone's preaching another Jesus than the one we preached, a different spirit, a different message, you put up with him quite nicely. But if you put up with these so-called big shot apostles, why can't you put up with me? I'm as good as they are. It's true. I don't have their voice. I haven't mastered eloquent speech that impresses you, but I do know what I am talking about. Okay? All right, guys. So Paul basically saying, look, I'm not the best speaker, but I know what I'm talking about. He says, or did I commit a sin in humbling myself so that you might be exalted because I preached God's gospel to you free of charge? I robbed other churches by accepting support from them in order to serve you. And when I was with you and was in need, I did not burden anyone. For the brothers who came from Macedonia supplied my need. Paul's making it clear here. He's making it clear, look, I didn't ask you guys for anything. And I wanted to give this beautiful message of what Jesus has done. And he said, so I refrained, and I will refrain from burdening you in any way. As the truth of Christ is in me, this boasting of mine will not be silenced in the regions of Achaia. And why? Because I do not love you? Oh, God knows I do. All right. So, everything going okay in the chat, guys? Yeah, there we go. Steven's got it. Steven, you got to, whoever you got to mute, brother, you just go ahead and mute him, man. You've got charge over the chat. All right. So, Paul's saying this. I love this line, by the way. As the truth of Christ is in me, this boasting of mine will not be silenced, right? He's not going to stop talking about the truth of Jesus that is in him. All right, I'm waiting for another ad to show up. And what I am doing, I will continue to do. What? Preach the gospel, preach the good news, in order to undermine the claim of those who would like to claim that in their boasted mission, they work on the same terms as we do. So he's got something against these super apostles, which he's going to call false apostles right now. For such men are false apostles, deceitful workmen, disguising themselves as apostles of Christ. They show up with their own message, they're preaching a different Jesus, and they're exalting themselves, okay? They're making themselves seem like a big deal because they're great at talking, but they don't know what they're talking about. We're going to get a lot of that in this chat, okay? And he says this, such men are false apostles, deceitful workmen, and they disguise themselves as apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. You guys realize that? It's not always, our image of Satan sometimes in our mind can be kind of what's become a caricature, right? This big red devil, so to speak, surrounded by fire and darkness and evil things. And yet, Paul lets us know it's more about deception. It's more about deception. He says, no wonder even Satan himself disguises as an angel of light. And that is why we need to know the truth of Jesus, because light can be shiny, but look, you get underneath it, you're going to find out the truth of it, okay? It can draw our attention, all right? But the truth is, Jesus Christ is the one who rose from the dead, and Paul is saying that if you are preached any other Jesus, you need to check it against the truth of the knowledge of God, and this destroys strongholds, okay? And he says, no wonder even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. So it is no surprise if his servants, Satan's servants, also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness. You got to be aware. Their end will correspond to their deeds. Now, let's see what this is right here. No wonder, guys, Satan does this all the time, dresses up as a beautiful angel of light. So it shouldn't surprise us when Satan's servants masquerade as servants of God, but they're not getting by with any of it. They'll all pay in the end, okay? Now, Paul talks about his sufferings as an apostle. I think this is great. He says, I repeat, let no one think of me as foolish. But even if I do, accept me as a fool so that I too may boast a little. What I am saying with this boastful confidence, I say not as the Lord, but as a fool. Since many boast according to the flesh, I too will boast. For you will gladly bear with fools, being wise yourselves. For you bear it with if someone makes slaves of you, or devours you, or takes advantage of you, or puts on airs, or strikes you in the face. To my shame, I must say we were too weak for that. So notice, guys, Paul's getting a little upset, as he has been with the Corinth church. Apparently, just like with the super apostles, they put up with it quite nicely, right? And they kind of go along with it, they deal with it. And Paul says, you're dealing with fools. All right, look, Paul's about to say here, I don't like to boast in the flesh. I don't like to do that. But I'm going to do that for you right now, so that you could see that I'm telling you guys the truth. So he's going to play their game. Remember, Paul says, I'll be all things to all people so that I may win some. So these super apostles are coming up, and they're creating great stories, and they're talking about a different Jesus and a different spirit, okay? But the Corinth church, they puts up with them. They deal with it. Paul has had enough. He says, you guys, you got to be smarter than that. Now listen, if they're pulling you in with all these stories according to the flesh, I'm about to tell you my stories according to the flesh. And so you're going to see that I know what I'm talking about. Here's what he says. But whatever anyone else dares to boast of, I'm speaking of a fool. I also dare to boast of that. Are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they offspring of Abraham? So am I. Are they servants of Christ? I am a better one. And I am talking like a madman, with far greater labors, far more imprisonments, with countless beatings, and I am often near death. So now Paul's laying it in. He says, you want to know what my life is like? Let's look according to the flesh. Okay? You know what's going on in the spirit, guys. I've got Christ living in me, but here's my fleshly life. I'm a Hebrew. I'm an Israelite. I'm a son of Abraham, and I'm a servant of Christ. But guess what? I'm a better one. I'm a better one than these fake apostles. Here's why. 5 times I received at the hands of the Jews the 40 lashes less one. Think about that, guys. At least 5 times he received those 39 lashes with those spiked claws over his back. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. A night and a day I was adrift, floating in the sea. On frequent journeys I am in danger from rivers, danger from robbers, dangers from my very own people, danger from the Gentiles. I'm in danger in the city, danger in the wilderness, danger at sea, danger from false brothers. In toil and in hardship, I've had many sleepless nights. I hunger, I thirst, often without food, left in the cold, completely exposed. And apart from other things, there is the daily pressure on me of my anxiety for all the churches. Who is weak? And I am not weak. Who is made to fall? And I am not indignant. If I must boast, I will boast of the things that show my weakness. The God and Father of the Lord Jesus, he who is blessed forever, knows that I am not lying. At Damascus, the governor under King Aretas was guarding the city of Damascus in order to seize me. But I was let down in a basket through a window in the wall, and I escaped his hands. My goodness, guys, what a resume from Paul. What a resume from Paul. Let me read that back to you in the Message version, and we'll wrap it up. He says, you want to talk about the flesh? You want to talk about what my life has been like ever since I've come to this incredible news, this mission to spread the gospel to the Gentiles? You want to know what my life's like? Well, let me tell you, I've worked much harder. I've been jailed more often. I've been beaten up more times than I can count. And I'm at death's door time after time. I've been flogged 5 times with the Jews' 39 lashes. I've been beaten by the Roman rods 3 times. I was pummeled with rocks. I was stoned. I was shipwrecked 3 times, completely immersed in the open sea for a night and a day. In hard traveling, year in and year out, I've had to go through rivers, fend off robbers, struggle with friends, struggle with foes. I've been at risk in the city, at risk in the country, endangered by the desert sun and the sea storm. I have been betrayed by those that I thought were my brothers. I've known drudgery and hard labor, many long and lonely nights without sleep, missing many meals, blasted by the cold and naked in the weather. And that is not the half of it. That is not the half of it. When you throw in the daily pressures and the anxieties I have for all the churches, all the believers, when someone gets to the end of his rope, I feel their desperation in my bones. And when someone is duped into sin, an angry fire burns in my gut. So if I have to brag about myself, I'll brag about the humiliations that make me like Jesus. The eternal and blessed God and Father of our Master Jesus knows that I am not lying. Remember that time I was in Damascus and the governor of Aretas posted guards at the city gates to arrest me? I crawled through a window at the side of the wall and I was let down in a basket and I had to run for my life. That wraps 2 Corinthians chapter 11, guys. I'd love to keep